Hello, my name is Pavel and welcome back to my channel. One thing about me is that I absolutely adore foreign movies. One of my favorite movies of all time, The Worst Person in the World, is a foreign movie. But today, I'm taking that concept and just taking it a little bit further, and I'm probably going to regret it. So if you haven't seen in any of the previous videos that I've recently made, I've stated that I'm in France for the next 4 weeks. And the thing about me being here is that I'm really trying to improve my French. I'm trying to learn the language. And what is a great way to learn a language? What is it? We're going to be watching movies. And today, I came up with this concept as I was watching Alvin and the Chipmunks on TV. Don't ask me any questions. Alvin and the Chipmunks in French is the only movie that I've watched in the last 3 weeks. And you know what? I miss watching proper movies. And I'm not trying to slander Alvin and the Chipmunks, but I was still confused. I was watching that movie and I was like, what the fuck is Alvin talking about? Because I have absolutely no idea, and I have no idea how I ended up speaking about Alvin and the Chipmunks. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic. Basically, I came up with this idea that I thought would be really interesting. I'm going to go to a French cinema and watch a movie entirely in French and just see what I'm going to be able to understand. It's going to be the weirdest review I have ever done. Is it going to be a good review? No. Am I going to be able to understand the movie? Probably not, but I feel like just as an experiment, just to see what I'm going to be able to understand, I feel like this is a good thing to do. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today, because I miss watching movies. And I've only watched Alvin and the Chipmunks in the last 3 weeks, and I need to kind of move on from that, and I want to watch something good. I came up with the idea because I was walking past a cinema, which is one thing I wanted to mention as well. There's a cinema 2 minutes down the road from me. How am I not the luckiest person in the world? There's a cinema 2 minutes away from me walking. I feel so privileged, and I'm going to be going alone, and I've made a video about going to the movies alone, and I want to do it more, and I'm going to be doing it today in France, and it just feels so weird the more I say it, and I'm going to stop repeating myself. So for me, this is kind of like a challenge, because I'm trying to learn the language, and I feel like by watching movies and kind of throwing myself into the language will help. But what movie am I going to watch? You're probably asking me. And I had to look through all of the movies being shown. Majority of them are French original movies, which I absolutely love. They're not showing movies from Hollywood and all that sort of stuff, except two. It was either Evil Dead or the new Mario movie. And I picked Evil Dead. And the reason I picked Evil Dead is because I feel like a horror movie, if I understand absolutely nothing, I'm going to have a good time, because it's just the visuals. It's going to be terrifying. I'm going to jump a few times. But if it's with Mario and I understand absolutely none of the dialogue, it's going to be just, I don't know, I feel like it's just going to be a little bit silly. So what are my expectations for this? My expectations are that I feel like I'm going to be focusing more on the visual elements of the movie rather than the dialogue. I'm going to try really, really hard. But if the cinema is really packed, if it's really loud, then I'm probably not going to be able to understand anything. Even by the poster, reading the poster for this movie, I was like, I understand most of it, but there's still some things that I don't entirely grasp. So my expectations are that I feel like I'm going to try really hard, but I'm also excited because I've not watched a horror movie on my own, and I'm living here on my own. So after the movie, I'm going to be heading home when it's super, super dark in the town, and that's going to be also a little bit terrifying. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a bit of an experience. So that's absolutely everything I have to say. I'm going to go watch the movie in 4 hours time, but let's just pretend we'll edit and all that sort of stuff, and I'm going to go watch it and I'll give you a review after. And I'm sorry if this is going to be my worst review ever. See you then. Whew. Hello. I'm finally back, and that was the weirdest experience ever. Can you hear that I'm wheezy? My chest is actually so tight because I ran up the hill, because it's still sunny out. I've never went to watch a horror movie in the cinema when it's late and have it be I'm wrecking the place. Have it be relatively sunny. It's so weird. So I really wanted to set up really quickly and record everything, because I took down some notes, and that was such a weird experience. Initially, you're probably thinking, did I understand anything from the movie? And majority of the dialogue, I'm not going to lie, I was absolutely confused about. There were a few jokes in the movie, especially towards the beginning, and I was like, oh, you know what, I actually understood that. I'm so glad that I picked a horror movie, because the generic structure of a horror movie, okay, I feel like I should start by saying what Evil Dead Rising is about. It is about a woman that becomes possessed, and she is possessed by something, and she's killing everybody in her family, and this entire movie felt like a gruesome, anxious nightmare that you could never escape from, and it was just, oh, I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'm going to go through my notes. But that was a really good experience, and I feel like I'm never going to get such a unique experience ever again unless I just go back to the cinema tomorrow and watch something and be entirely confused again, because that's how I kind of feel. I feel a little bit confused, but I'm also really glad at the same time that I did this, because it's just cool. It's just really cool. Like, whenever I came over to Ireland, this is a little bit of a story time, very, very quickly. Whenever I came over to Ireland, I knew absolutely no English, and the way I learned English is by watching movies and watching TV shows, and maybe it'll work for French. Probably won't, because I was a kid, and you learn languages easier when you're a kid. But anyway, let's get on with this discussion, not review, because I can't really review a movie that I only watched visually. Watched visually, does that even make it doesn't matter. Anyway, this entire experience makes me think about movies entirely differently. Like, the way I was looking at this movie, I was like, okay, I want to try and understand what they were saying, but I realistically I didn't know a lot of the dialogue, because the French speak so fast, and I was trying to lip read, and there were so many sentences in English I could lip read, and I was like, okay, I understand what they're saying because I'm lip reading, and I picked up on a few words. But it was very difficult for me, and I found the entire experience of understanding the movie, the dialogue of the movie, very difficult. So I focused on the visual elements, and lucky for me, this movie is over the top, gruesome, gore. There's so many scenes in this movie. Maybe I mentioned a razor and a grater. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm on about, and they're most those scenes are something else, because holy fuck. So I was looking at a visual, and there's so many really cool and unique ways that this movie is filmed. There's so many shots where it's you see half a hand in a bath, or they use POV so much as a doorbell, and overall this movie just looks really good. The one thing I really loved about this movie, it is just full on horror. It does not hold back. It is horror through and through, and I think I adore that it's admiring the genre, it's embracing the form, and it's just making the absolute most of it. It's not holding back. Every horror trope is in this, but it makes it unique because of how it's shot. And there's so many, this movie is horrifying. There's so many scenes throughout this movie, especially with the mother that is initially possessed. She's fucking terrifying as a character. The things that she does, the way she gets out of baths, the way she rips people's heads off, the way she just it's terrifying. It's terrifying because whenever they use mothers and they transform into these possessed demonic things, it's just terrifying. It's just terrifying because obviously there's an innocence. You are a mother, you have kids, you want to protect them, but it obviously flips that innocence, and it is absolutely fucking insane, and I loved it. And okay, the cinema itself wasn't that nice. The ticket was fairly expensive. I'll put in the clip of the actual cinema here. I didn't think it was that nice, and it was really nice to be with a crowd of people, because I didn't want to be entirely on my own, because I understood nothing, but watching their reactions and hearing their reactions is something that I absolutely loved. And one thing that I loved about the cinema is that they had a countdown on the bottom right saying how long is left of the ads. Genius! Every other cinema, you need to pick up on this, because that is very smart, unless it's just Irish cinemas that don't do that, which makes sense. But anyway, whenever the movie started, I felt really excited, and this movie just jumps straight into the gore. This movie is 90 minutes long. It does not hold back. From the first scene, you're like, okay, I know exactly what this is going to be. This is going to be a horror movie, and it is going to be gruesome. It's going to be over the top. It's going to be fucking mental, and that's exactly what this movie was. And from the title card is so fucking cool. I'll put it in here as well, and it looked really badass. I tried to read the lips, as I said, and I'll probably end up rewatching this in English to entirely understand the story. But with a movie like this, you get the general gist of the story. They find these old books and this vinyl that tells them this story and the history, and it all relates to the possession and the evolution of this character that's going to transform into something even more terrifying. You know the general structure of a horror movie if you've seen anything. And it was really interesting, because I was thinking about this as I was watching it. After you've watched so many horror movies, you start looking behind characters more. You start looking to the left and right of characters more. And that is something I noticed, because obviously couldn't understand what they were saying. So I was looking to the left and right. And I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense. It does in my head, but I feel like I watched so many horror movies that I look at them a little bit differently. Overall, I think I just picked the right movie. I think I picked the right movie because if I picked Super Mario Brothers or something with a lot of dialogue, I just would not have had fun. This is an experience that is going to be memorable. I'm in this apartment entirely alone, and I'm going to be a little bit terrified, especially by some scenes within the apartment and everybody becoming possessed. A little bit of a spoiler, sorry about that. So I love that. That was a really fucking cool experience. One thing that I was thinking about quite a lot is, how do they dub these movies? Do they just remove the English dialogue and get somebody else to record them? Because obviously I've never watched something like this. I have subtitles on, and I've never really thought about it until there. And maybe that's a bit bad that I was thinking about that during the movie. But whenever scenes of people just speaking, what else was I supposed to do? And in general, This movie is, you know, whenever you have a nightmare and you feel like you can never escape, like almost Kafkaesque. I feel like I'm using that word, like, and I sound really pretentious, and it is really pretentious. But this movie is just layers upon layers of nightmare fuel that you cannot escape from.
We cannot escape, we cannot come out.
And the characters are trying to escape from this, but it doesn't work because something else happens. And there were so many scenes, which I swear in my life happens so rarely. I was like holding back like this. I was jumping back. And I think that's a sign of a really effective horror movie. Maybe it was because it was in a pitch black, dark, super dark room. And it was really loud. And I was really into it. But there were a few jump scares that genuinely made me jump. And you know what? That is successful because that's just... it's what you want from a horror movie. And I got what I wanted from this. Honestly, did I expect to understand a majority of the movie? No, I didn't. I just thought that this would be a cool video to make. And it was a cool video to make, and it's something I'll probably remember for a really long time. Yeah, I think it's the most interesting movie-going experience I've had, and I could tell somebody, and I know the majority of people I'm going to tell, they're going to be like, you're an idiot. And I probably am, because I wasted money on this. Well, I didn't waste it. I'm going to stop talking because I'm talking so much shit. I just love movies. I think that's all I want to say towards the end of this video, is that I just love movies. I had such a good time. That was so fun. And will I do it again? Maybe with friends. Or maybe with an English movie, but until I learn French a little bit better, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. So that's me going to a foreign cinema, going to a French cinema and trying to understand. I had fun. Have you ever done this? If you have, I would love to hear about your experience because it's really interesting to me. And I want to see, do we share any similarities? Because it's just interesting. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.